Hello, I'm Xavier and I used to work the night shift back in my local mall as a security guard. If I remember correctly, there were three of us on that night shift. Me, Sean, and my good friend Clint. He'd usually patrol around the mall next to my buddy, and Sean would usually go on his own. I'd arrive first, Sean would follow minutes later, and Clint would arrive the latest. It's like that every night. Sean and I, we didn't talk much during the time that I was on that shift. He just seemed like a weird dude. Always coming to work shaking and terrified, pelted in sweat, before he could even walk a good distance away from the entrance. He's so weird, I remember Clint telling me one night. I didn't want to speak badly of a fellow security guard, so I tried to respond as neutral as possible. I asked him why he thought so, and he shrugged in response. He always looks behind him, like he's searching for someone behind him. He looks like he's scared all the time. And don't you think it's strange we never run into him during our shifts? He's clearly up to something. I'm sure he has a good reason why, I responded, unsure of my answer myself. I too started to get suspicious of my coworker's behavior, and that suspicion skyrocketed when my friend Clint brought this topic up. The next night, Clint and I were walking around the mall as usual, with the lights shut off hours prior, and the only light shining through the dark hallways was the light our mini flashlights brought. I remember talking to Clint about basketball, one of our 4 favorite sports, when asking light shone from in front of us. It didn't take us long to know it was Sean. "Hey, I'm going to the restroom for a while. Go on without me," Clint said, excusing himself as he disappeared into the darkness. That left Sean and I alone, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't terrified of being in the same room as him. "So where have you been?" I asked, wrapping my hands around the bottle of pepper spray I always kept in my pocket. He looked around for a while before gesturing for me to come closer. "There's someone weird going on in this mall," he whispered, his voice shaky as he spoke. I probably should have whipped out my bottle of pepper spray and used it against him. I just had to let him continue speaking that night. "Oh yeah? Like what?" "I feel like there's an intruder hiding in the mall," he said. Nothing that serious ever happens in this small town, so I found myself doubting him. I nodded in response for the sake of being nice. If there was an intruder, I'm pretty sure Amir Clint would have caught him by now. His eyebrows creased, a confused expression replacing his terrified one. "Clint? Who's Clint?" My heart fell. Clint Bacon, the new guy. "What new guy? It's just us working the night shift." "You've got to be messing with me, Clint." "The guy who always arrives late. You know, him?" I was begging him to nod or at least show some recognition, at least to calm my nerves. He didn't. I pulled out my phone and showed him a picture I had taken with Clint. "This guy? You don't know him?" "That's just a picture of yourself. Is this a prank?" I quit my job the next day. I've decided to move back with my family. I still don't know who Clint really is, or if I'd been delusional the entire time. When I heard that there are homes in Michigan that you can buy for $3,000, I knew I had to have one. What I found were homes that had been stripped to bare shells and homes with trees growing out of their tops. That's why when I found 218 Turnbuckle Drive in relatively okay condition, I was thrilled that all the house was missing were the doors. A 4-bedroom, 3-bath house was amazing compared to what I had seen. Running water, working electrical, nice hardwood floors, no mold, no rot. Someone must have taken all the doors very recently, even the front and back ones. Nothing else, not even the copper handles and taps. I waited for the real estate agency to send someone out of the official show. I was expecting someone in a real estate-owned, graphic-wrapped car and friendly smile. What I got was the world's most filthiest van, the world's sketchiest, creepiest driver, creaking to a stop right in front of me. A woman rushed up from within and pushed her face up against the glass of the van's side windows. It was hard to hear, but I think she said something like, over there all the time, and they said they lost a man, and Johnny never lost a man because Johnny went to war and brought men back, but they looked and they lost that man. They looked up and down and up and down and up and down. They couldn't find him, and they knew he was there, but he wasn't. He put the doors up, and the same as Sam, and she went into, and I tried to dismiss this crazy lady with a small wave. Thank you, but have a nice day. Doors! Johnny went into the back room to talk to Lori, who went through the kitchen to get to the room. Both lost, and Johnny never lost anyone. The doors... The driver seemed to panic and took off with a screech as a new real estate-owned graphic-wrapped car pulled to a stop with the paperwork and deed to 218 Turnbuckle. I didn't let one old burnout's bad trip story scare me. The area was cheap enough for me to rent a room in for just a bit, while I arranged for a contractor to come and put the doors on. All of the well-established and more reputable firms in the area wouldn't even stay on the phone as soon as I said 218 Turnbuckle Drive. One was kind enough to laugh and stay on the line long enough to ask, "You must be from out of state, hearing about one of those cheap houses, huh?" 218's where those kids went missing a while back. Well, 20-year-olds. Everyone sees him go into one of the rooms. Nobody sees them leave. Some folks have been trying to move in there for at least the past decade, but most leave not long after. Seen the police there a few times. If I were you, I would unload it to the next sucker and get out. It's a cheap house for a reason. But that man knew I didn't have it in me to just walk away based on rumors. I hired a group outside of the state to install 16 doors at a premium, including pantry, closet, pull doors to the attic. An estimated 2 weeks, the universal standard for all remolding jobs. I got a call from the on-site super 2 days later to tell me that his crew was pulling out and issuing a credit, without legitimate reason. They sounded spooked and only said they refused to go into the back room without legitimate reason. I raced back to the house hoping to catch them still there to ask what was going on. I was happy to see that their work trucks were still there, but the men were not in the house. I decided to check the back room to see what was wrong with it. The back room was only one near the back door. A strange offshoot that had its own bathroom, a washer and dryer, and 2 couches crowded with old rag dolls that the former owners left. The men didn't install the doors except for the front and back doors and ones on the back room. The only thing out of place in the back room, other than the creepy dolls, was a cell phone still open with only 4% life left. Enough for me to see it had tried to make 350 calls in 2 hours. They recorded 15 minutes of videos broken up into 2 to 3 minute segments. I watched the longest of the videos first. It was a shaky hand camera that showed me my back room door opening to my hallway, but a little different. The wall lights were in the wrong spot. They opened and shut the back room door again to show a completely different room. The upstairs bathroom before coming out to the hallway again. Someone asked something in Spanish and the cameraman answered, "Yeah, the rooms are different each time we shut the door." I'm just getting the video of this craziest thing ever. They walked on the front door, and the cameraman told a worker to abra la puerta, and one of them opened the door. The video showed the front door opening to the back room. They laughed, shut the front door, and opened it again. It was still the back room. They returned to the back room and opened that door and saw that it now opened to a guest bedroom. Their laughs were weakened with fear. The video bobbed wildly as they ran into the back door and opened it to find the front room. One of the workers yelled, "Ventanas," and the cameraman looked up at the windows. They no longer showed the outside, but other portions of the house. They were breathing hard, nearly hyperventilating at this point. They ran through the front door and into a kitchen, and through the den, all in a line when they shouldn't have been. They finally arrived to the back room, but all the rag dolls were gone from the couch. The men off-screen gasped, and the cameraman murmured, "Oh my God," as the camera was about to point at what they were looking at. The phone died. I looked up from the black screen to see the back room slowly shut on its own. As I was loading up the last of my boxes from the car to the truck, I looked at my brand new house one more time in all of its glory. I decided to move to California for a new job opportunity. It seemed like the small business was really starting to boom. Needed a decent coding tech kind of guy. While I seemed to suck at every other topic I studied in college, computer science was the only class I ever really did well in. Plus, the annual income amassed almost 6 digits, so I was sold. Entering the house, I unpacked quickly. I didn't bring much stuff over, and besides, I was going to get together with some old friends of mine in my house for dinner. Jason, Vincent, and Jerry came inside for what was supposed to be steak, but quickly turned to a Chinese food takeout as I accidentally burned the meat. We talked about what happened so far since high school. While it was a great and touching reunion, Jerry wouldn't stop talking about his new anime waifu or whatever, so we decided to switch topics. And that's when we started talking about the mirror passageway. Supposedly, it's a gateway to hell, but others just see it as a parallel dimension or something, Vincent explained. He told us that at 1:11 a.m., if you have a mirror, preferably tall, behind you as you lay down, and you observe the mirror upside down with a shiny spoon enough to reflect at least a hazy image of yourself, you could see what looks like another different dimension for 1 minute. Until it becomes 1:12, while the description is various. From an underwatery hell to the image of your own room but without you in it, all of it seemed paranormal, which is something I was quite fond of. That's gotta be the most stupid thing I've ever heard, Jerry said, eager to get back to his waifu BS. We all rolled our eyes as Vincent ignored him and kept going. But while you do it, you were supposed to never drop the spoon. Jason asked, why? Well, because the spoon is the only thing keeping us bound to the real world. It's a portal, not a reflection. As long as you see your reflection of yourself in the spoon, you are in the real world, but once you drop it, even if you pick it up and put it in your mouth, a tampered image means that you aren't in your real world. Jason said, yeah, fuck that. Your nut job as always. And I partially agreed, but to be truthful, you could say I was one too. Which is probably why I tried it for myself that night. Partially because I couldn't fall asleep. The more I tried to sleep, the more curiosity bit into me, until I rummaged through my kitchen looking for a shiny enough spoon to see my reflection in it. There, a silver spoon showed a pretty clear image of myself, only upside down due to the curvature of the metal. 12:58, the clock read. I laid down in my bed with this tall mirror I brought up from my old home, and wiped my spoon one more time before sticking it in my mouth. I saw nothing for the next 10 minutes. Finally, feeling the exhaustion from moving hit me. I started to get drowsy until I saw the mirror glimmer. I opened my eyes. I saw what seemed to be my room, but different. It was difficult to see because I turned off the lights, expecting myself to fall asleep, but my face seemed darker. I squinted my eyes until I realized there were no eyes in my eye sockets, but just blood oozing out. I screamed in fear, then I realized I spat the spoon out in the process. As quickly as it happened, though, I stuck the spoon back in my mouth, hoping I didn't just curse myself to damnation. Then the pseudo-me stared right at me and started reaching out of the mirror. As adrenaline kicked in, I grabbed the nearest object, which was the alarm clock I had for reading the time for this, and smashed the mirror. Glass flew everywhere, and I was sprinkled in silvery glass as I felt cuts all over my right arm. I quickly flickered my lights on and took a couple breathers before I cleaned up the mess. I took a quick shower and redressed myself for bed when I remembered the spoon rule that Vincent mentioned. I slowly peeked, scared for what I was about to see. When I saw a regular picture of myself, relieved, I went to bed, only to wake up in a huge jolt realizing what I'd just seen. The reflection on the spoon wasn't upside down.